Give it about 8 seconds and then go.
Good evening. Notice is hereby given that due to the novel coronavirus pandemic and recent executive orders issued by the governor, the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals hearing scheduled for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. will be held electronically via Zoom webinar instead of an in-person public hearing and will be streamed live over the internet. Instructions on how to access the Zoom webinar live stream are available on the town's website, www.islipny.gov. Thank you all for coming tonight and dealing with the changes that we have in this day and age. Mary, we ready to call the first applicant?
We are. Want me to do it?
It's up to you. I can do it if you want me to.
Okay.
Application number 355-20. Colin Morgan, trustee of the Carol A. Morgan Irrevocable Trust. Permission to erect one-story addition, leaving side yard of 16.16 feet instead of required 18 feet, and to use dwelling for two-family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code 68-419.1. Residence AA District, north side of Birch Street, 110 feet east of Wilson Boulevard, Islip, New York.
Oh, let's ask Mike to start his video.
Mr. Dunn, are you there? Can you start your video?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, just can't see you.
Okay. Let's see. Here it comes.
Hey, hey,
All right.
How are you
Hi,
tonight, sir?
everybody. Hope you're all doing well. I'm
Yes,
doing
sir.
well. Hope you guys are okay.
We're doing great, thank you. Name and address for the
Oh,
record,
I
please.
worked on the plans. Yes. My name is Michael Dunn, D-U-N-N, the architect for Mrs. Morgan.
All right, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you. Mrs. Morgan is seeking permission for a family use apartment. And so we have the paperwork in. We have enough parking in the front. I think that is kind of straightforward and easy. We're also asking for a side yard setback of 16.16 instead of the required 18 feet. We do have the setback on the other side, so we're asking for a minimal 2-foot setback on one side.
Great, so as you know, you've been in front of us many times. The relief you're asking for the side yard, de minimis as we call it. Two-family use only. It appears age is the criteria. Everything looks to be in order. Correct? Yep. I'm looking through the file as we speak. I apologize.
Somebody is elderly, Mike?
Say that again?
Somebody is elderly, that's the reason for the two-family necessity?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
It looks like her son lives with mom, 74 years old.
That's right.
All right, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application, and with respect to the two-family use only, grant that for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Application granted. Have a great night, Mr. Dunn.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, Mike.
Bye all.
Application number 356-20, Raphael A. Brito, permission to use two dwellings for two-family use only, as by Town Code Section 68-419.1, resident AA District, south side of Drayton Avenue, 200 feet east of 3rd Street, Bay Shore, New York. Anyone here on that application, 356-20?
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
good evening. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Good evening, Roxanne. How are you tonight?
How are you guys?
Doing well, thanks. So you're here seeking permission, two-family use only?
Two family, it's a father and a son, and we provided both birth certificates.
Yep, seems like age is the criteria.
Age is-
Everything's in order.
Yes.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you.
John, Roxanne is on the next two cases as well.
Application 357-20, Rosaline and Looters Old West. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to ISO Town Code, section 68-602. To leave a shed having rear yard of 0.9 feet to the required 2 feet. Residence A District, north side of Wiley Street, 181.51 feet west of Byrne Court, Brentwood, New York.
Good evening again. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting. And we're here to establish an accessory apartment. It is 323 square feet. The home is owner occupied. The driveway has been approved by engineering. And we're also here for a shed. It's a small shed, about 42 square feet, and it's 0.9 feet instead of 2 feet.
Great. Shed, things in this, we see that every weekend, in front of us. Everything's in order. Apartment is 323 square feet. Driveway was approved.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application and grant the accessory apartment pursuant to ISO Town Code for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
One more.
One more, I'm sorry. Application 358-20. Jesus A. Fuentes Somoza and Maria R. Somoza Mariquin. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to ISO Town Code, section 68-602, to leave one-story addition having a side yard of 13.2 to the required 14, and to leave 6-foot fence on front property line, not having required setback 15 feet. Residential B District, northeast corner of Hilltop Drive, and First Place, Brentwood, New York.
Good evening again. We're here to establish an accessory apartment. It is 568 square feet, owner occupied, and the driveway has been approved by engineering. We're also here for a one-story addition. The addition is about 150 square feet, and it maintains a side yard of 13.2 instead of 14. And then the last thing we're here for is a 6-foot fence, which is on the property line. I did take a picture of it, so I think it's better to see it. The home is catty-cornered between First Street and Hilltop Drive. I don't know if you can make this out. So while it is in the front yard, it's because the home is like completely catty-cornered in the front. They fenced off like where the property is.
I think, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that Ms. Trella's applicant is okay because the property is 100 by 100, right? It's under the
11,250.
It's under the 11,250.
Yeah.
So hold
I
on,
think
just make sure they're not considering a primary fence. Is it instead of the required 15 or instead of the required 10?
It says required 15.
Yeah, so so even it's those are those odd lots, those catty corners. So it seems as if zoning considered that yard to be the primary front. And that's why they said that the setback requirement would be 15.
But it looks to me by the eye of the survey that it's pretty much directly in the center of primary Hilltop. So how do they choose that what front is primary when it's kind of catty corner on a lot?
Sometimes they research the records from when the house was constructed, but there's no question that those catty corner parcels are very difficult to determine what's the front and what's the second front. So that would be for the board to determine that this is very unique and that the second front yard setback could be applied because of that uniqueness, and therefore the exception for 11,250 would apply to this parcel. But that's up to you. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Wouldn't we, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, wouldn't we want to call for whatever decision we make where the driveway is the primary? Doesn't that seem to make sense? Or am I wrong?
I don't know how you can, I hear what you're saying, and I sort of agree with you, but I'm not sure in this situation how we can tell who's primary, who's not due to a
You know,
driveway.
I personally would interpret it to be in what's in the best favor of the homeowner in a situation like this.
But aren't they, by what they're doing, telling us which is primary, i.e. where they have the entry, where they have pavers, where they put the fence? It's kind of hard to imagine that they climb over a 6-foot fence to get to walk through the yard every day.
Let me ask you one question, Mr. Lux, and I agree, you have a great argument, but what's the difference, 11,250 or less, whether it's primary or not? They're still 11,250 or less. I know what the code says. This is kind of a situation where the property is, the dwelling is catty-cornered on a property. I think we can write this up all day without having any issue for the future presidents.
Oh, I agree. I don't think it makes a difference. I'm just saying, maybe opining that it looks like I guess that would be the western between Hilltop and First is their primary.
There also is one case of precedent in 2014 with a 6-foot fence on the property line.
Well,
Oh.
I don't think any of us have a problem with granting the application. I think we're just kind of talking semantically.
Well, there's also a fence along the other street as well. So I think either way, there'd be a problem. On the survey, it says there's a wood fence along First.
Oh, yeah, I see that too.
So
All right. Does anyone wish to, so before I ask if anyone wishes to be heard, the apartment size 568, Estrella, and the driveway complies, correct?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to grant the application, also to grant the accessory apartment for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
You too, Roxanne.
Bye-bye.
Application number 359-20, Kenny Charles. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Isom Town Code, section 68-602, Residence A District, east side of Casement Avenue, 115 feet north of Carnation Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Good evening. Anyone here on application 359-20?
Yes, we do have somebody here. Here he comes.
Mr. Messina showed up. Hey, Mr. Messina, what's up?
Hello, Vinny.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, good to see you.
How
Good to
are
be
you?
with my colleagues.
What's going on?
Not a heck of a lot, thank goodness. I'm wearing a tie. I hope you're impressed.
You're looking nice. You're looking nice.
Got the town seal in my background,
I saw that.
How'd you get that?
off the website.
Oh, cool.
You want me to send it to you?
Yeah, but send me Babylon. I'm only kidding. La Jolla County or whatever, San Diego
Yeah.
County.
Chemung County.
Have you ever been there?
I have, of course I have. I've
That's
done
right,
an
you
election
prob- yeah,
case there.
Right. Wow.
The next applicant's representative is here, and I just asked him to start his video and unmute himself. John Monaco, can you hear us? I might have to do a second call on that because there is somebody else, a neighbor who, oh, there he is. Okay.
Can you hear me?
We hear you, sir. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, so we're good?
I can hear you.
I see him.
Okay,
Sam?
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. How are you tonight?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name's John Monaco. I'm expediter for Kenny Charles. I'm with First National Expediter. Mr. Kenny Charles is trying to get a accessory apartment. It's 700 square feet. It's on the first floor. It's owner occupied. The driveway meets all requirements. And I can't think of anything else.
So just for the record, we have that the apartment is 652 square feet. Is that correct?
Speaking to you, Mr. Monaco.
Yes, it's 700 square feet.
We have 652, just for the record.
Okay, whatever it is, whatever it, I believe it was 700, but if you say it's 652, I'll go with that.
I'm just going off what's in this file. I've never seen the apartment, sir. I don't measure it. I'm just saying what's in the file. So is it 652 or 700?
I was just looking on the paperwork. It said 700 there. Maybe that was just for the building. I'm not sure.
Okay, the driveway complies. I believe Mary stated that someone's here looking to comment.
I did speak with a neighbor today, and she was going to do her best to zoom in, but she admitted that she wasn't sure she would be familiar with the technology. So I only have one phone number in the attendee panel that I don't recognize. I can't write to them. But if we can't get her in, I did say that I would express her concerns that the landlord is not very present and doesn't seem to be managing the property very well.
What was that first word?
The landlord doesn't appear to be present. It doesn't seem to be a well-managed owner occupancy situation.
Kenny Charles lives there with his son. That's his residence. He works at 7-Eleven. That's where he is right now. He just spent thousands of dollars to revinyl the house. The house looks great. I think it'll be a very nice accessory apartment and very safe.
Sir, Mary was just speaking on behalf of a neighbor. She's just trying to read it into the record. So let her finish her comments and then we can talk about it.
Very good.
Yeah. So I don't see any hands up anymore. So I feel badly that the neighbor is apparently not able to get into this Zoom hearing. So she did say that the tenants are occupying the backyard in a tent and it's causing a lot of noise into her backyard. And just that she's tried to communicate with the property owner and the situation hasn't gotten much better. So maybe if you want a reserved decision, I'll be able to make contact with her. I do have her phone number and we can get something in writing.
A reserved decision for what? You've expressed what her concerns
Okay.
are. Now
Well, that's fine.
it's up to the applicant to address those concerns.
Yeah. And the applicant isn't
Okay,
present, his representative.
I was at the house recently. There are no tents, but I did have the sheriff take out somebody that was living there illegally. We got him out. We put everything. We had the sheriff evict the person. I think that's what the neighbor was complaining about. But they've been out for months, these people.
So possibly we've done in the past as a board, instead of the 3-year, maybe we give the 1 year, see how it rolls out. And if there's issues more, we can come back in a year and readdress them.
I think that's a good idea.
All right. Does anyone be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application for a period of 1 year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we have 1 year, Mr. Monaco. Your client can come back in a year, and if everything is status quo and good, then we'll rehear it then and possibly give them the 3 years.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Application number 360-20, Nassau Suffolk Realty Associates LLC. Permission to erect one-story building leaving side yard of 8 feet instead of required 10 feet, to install generator leaving side yard of 6 feet instead of required 10 feet, and to install AC condensers leaving side yard of 4 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence double A district, south side of Montauk Highway, 200 feet west of Succotash Avenue, West High School.
I'm promoting them to panelists right now.
Hey, Vinny, you can take over anytime you want.
Not a chance, Mr. Chairman, not a chance.
You read much better than me.
Oh, if you want me to read, I'll do that. That's fine.
Yes.
I'm just
yes.
not sharing anything.
All right, you can read. You're much better reading.
Don't try to sucker me into that, huh?
Been there, done that.
Got the t-shirt.
Mhm.
Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you,
I'm
sir.
sorry. Hi, I'm Tim Schultz from H2M Architects and Engineers, located at 538 Broad Hollow Road in Melville. I'm representing Nassau Suffolk Realty on this application.
How are you tonight?
So we, roughly 2 years ago on this application, we worked with planning department to receive direction on the placement and size of the overall building. We were approved to the planning board on September 6th, 2018. Then we appeared in front of the town board on November 29th, 2018, where we were granted a change of zone from a residence AA district to a general service T district to construct a professional medical office on the south side of Montauk Highway in West Islip. So we're here today to seek permission to erect a one-story professional medical office with an 8-yard setback instead of the required 10 feet, as well as installing the 3 mechanical condensing units, which will hold the 4 feet off the property line. And lastly, we were looking to remove the proposed generator from this application at this time and not proceed with the generator.
So you're looking to amend the call to remove the installed generator, leaving side yard 6 feet, so required 10 feet?
Correct. Yep.
Make a motion to amend the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So what's
Application
on the
amended.
side of your property? What adjoins your property on the side where you're putting the AC condensers?
So there's a neighboring property that's currently zoned as the residence AA. It's used for a doctor's office where they have parking in the front,
Okay.
right next to Montauk Highway, and then the building is located towards the rear of the property.
So it's not a residence, even
It's
though
not.
it's zoned that way.
Yep, it's just
So
zoned.
presumably anyone who would buy it would see that the condensers are right there if they wanted to use it for a residential purpose.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I can ask, I'm looking at the aerial, which is the subject property?
Right there.
That's, okay, thank you.
Ian, from planning, I'm assuming you guys have no objection. I haven't heard you.
Yep, no objections. They went through planning already and things were already discussed and compromised, so no objections.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night, sir.
Great, thank you too.
Hi, everyone.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll relieve you of your burden.
Thank
you wish.
goodness. About time.
You still have the burden of the rest of the board, but you know, I'll relieve you of the reading. Yeah,
Thank you.
we're
Appreciate it.
still going to be a thorn in your side, I'm sure. Number 361-20, Christopher J. Policelli. Permission to elevate dwelling and to erect second-story addition, 31.5 feet by 51 feet irregular, leaving first floor elevation of 9.8 feet instead of permitted 9 feet, side yard of 13.6 feet instead of the required 14 feet, and floor area ratio of 31.6% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A district, east side of Sequams Lane Center, 920 feet south of Sequams Way, West Islip, New York. Is anyone here for the applicant?
They are. Let me move them in. Application. Here comes Christopher Policelli. I think he has to unmute himself. There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Good evening.
Christopher Policelli, 221 Sequams Lane Center in West Islip.
How are you tonight, sir?
Not bad.
Great. Good to hear. So you're here seeking permission to elevate dwelling and to erect second-story addition, First floor elevation 9.8 instead of permitted 9.
That's correct.
Instead required 14 and floor area ratio 31.6 instead of 25. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm gonna go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no, I just didn't know if you wanted me to explain it or anything.
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead, explain.
Just in relation to the floor area ratio, the architect and myself, we tried to do our due diligence before even designing. We looked at some of the houses, 2 houses down in the neighborhood, and the board had deemed acceptable 31.6.
This is West Islip. I'm sure there's many houses over FAR. I'm gonna actually ask Deirdre from planning. She's on here also. I'm sure I'd have to assume there's a few precedents in the area. Deirdre, is there any precedents for FAR?
Yep, there's a few precedents at 31.6.
Okay, great. The first floor elevation 9.8 instead of 9. Do we have some precedent for that?
No precedent for that, but no
Any
objection
objection
to
from
that
planning?
either. Yeah.
Seems de minimis, correct?
Mhm.
Great. And side yard 13.6 instead of 14. That obviously is diminished right there on that also. Mr. Policelli, do you have anything further to say?
I don't. It's just if you guys have any questions, I mean, I'll be glad to answer them.
All right, we'll see if anyone has any questions. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Rex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good
Thank
night.
you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, application number 362-20. William J. and Kathleen A. Schaefer. Permission to leave 2 driveways having side yards of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet each. Front yard occupancy of 45% instead of permitted 35%. And to leave shed having a rear yard of 1.9 feet instead of the required 2 feet. Residence B District, north side of Sotson Avenue, 500 feet west of Coates Avenue, Holbrook, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
They're here. Just need to unmute yourself, Mr. Schaefer.
And then hit the.
There we go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Schaefer. Name and address for the record, please.
William and Kathleen Schaefer, 143 Sotson Avenue, Holbrook, New York.
How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Great, thanks. So you're seeking permission to leave 2 driveways having side yards of 1 foot instead of 4, front yard occupancy of 45 instead of 35, and to leave shed having a rear yard of 1.9 instead of 2.
Correct.
So the shed in the back's de minimis. We see them all the time, as you probably heard if you were listening. Front yard occupancy, although the code says 35, we as a board allow 40%. So there'll be a percentage that you have to be shaved off for the front yard occupancy.
There is one precedent for 45.
There is, within the 500 feet.
Yep. Granted in 2017.
Maybe a lucky day, Mr. Schaefer.
Mr. Chairman, can I just find out do you know the circumstances of that one grant?
No, but I can find out. I don't know if there was a lot scanned to that decision, but I can try and find out.
My concern is, do we want to now make 45 the front yard? I mean, rear yard, it wouldn't be as consequential, but these are the front yards. And
Although the area is already built out. I mean, there's no vacant lots on, as far as I'm aware, on Sotson Avenue that are buildable. There are no vacant lots at all, as far as I'm aware.
No, but if everybody wants to widen driveways to fit more cars, it would certainly change the nature and character of the neighborhood, I think.
Mr. Wexler, I, of course, would defer to you if you want to ponder that.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's a reason this happens all the time. We grant one, there's a specific reason, and then down the road, we hear there was another, and I'd like to know what it was. If it was just because we felt charitable, then I have no problem. But if there was a specific reason, I think we need to have a different discussion.
To you. I'm sorry, did you go ahead?
Sorry, I just said I could find out.
So are you requesting that we reserve decision, Mr. Wexler?
Yeah, I would, please, just so we know what it looks like.
Okay.
This is all there
We
already,
find out. This is all there already, yeah.
right? It's all to maintain.
All to maintain, correct.
Okay, so, in light of that, it's there, they're using it, no prejudice to the applicant. I'm fine with that as well.
Mr. Schaefer, you in any rush?
Excuse me?
Are you in any rush?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so would Mr. Wexler, one of our board members, asked us if we can do a little research on the one precedence area so we don't possibly change nature and character of the neighborhood with allowing 45% instead of 40. So we're gonna review it as a board, and we have 62 days by law to render a decision.
Sir, did you come to us through code enforcement, through a summons or something?
No, I'm looking for a CO for an addition I just did on my home.
Okay,
And all of these little things popped up.
yeah.
And I'd like to explain the reason for the second driveway. I've been here 33 years. The road has always been in not great shape. And with 3 teenagers driving and the road being such a small dead end block, you need the parking space. Otherwise plows can't come through, and it was actually a necessity as far as I'm concerned.
So Sotson Avenue is very narrow, is it not, sir?
Yes, it is. If you have 2 cars parked next to each other, the garbage truck just makes it.
Right. Okay, that's good for us to know. That's important for us to know.
That was my reasoning for putting it in, because I
Right.
had 5 cars at the one time.
I'm glad I don't have your insurance bill.
Well, my kids pay their own insurance.
Does anyone wish to regard this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer, we have 62 days to render a decision. You'll get it in the mail. And hopefully, we won't be here from you again.
Okay, and this holds up the CO for my new addition.
It's okay. They can't do anything without our decision, so.
So I had the Department of Public Works wanted some money from me for that driveway. All that, I don't have to pay any of these fines or fees or whatever they are.
I believe we're gonna ask the councils on the board, but I believe everything is stayed while we are in our. So you're waiting for a permit right now to start your addition?
No, it's already been completed. It's already
Okay.
been approved and by,
He needs a permit for the second curb cut, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Right, but what I think he's asking is if he has to pay a renewal on that permit. You can renew up to 3 times, but obviously you pay fees each time. So I think
Right.
he's asking for that renewal fee. And I don't,
When does your permit expire, sir?
I don't have one.
Okay, so then, yeah, you're gonna have to get a permit. You're gonna have to pay those fees.
Right, I have all that paperwork here.
Right.
And I have to wait for my approval from you now before I pay these fees.
Yeah, we're gonna do it as quick as possible. We just want to review the other precedent in your area real quick, and then we'll get it done as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, now, same thing on my AC legalizations. I was supposed to pay for AC legalizations permit for that. I gave my 300 deposit. I was approved. And I have a $600 balance.
Your ACs have nothing to do with this application, so pay your permit fees for those. Absolutely.
Okay, because originally everything was holding up my CO was all these items. There was a bunch of items.
Okay, but the AC isn't in front of us, so it has nothing to do with us.
Okay,
All
all
right.
right, so I don't do anything until I hear from you.
No, that's not what we said. We just said, pay all your permit fees. You might not have to pay the one for the driveway. I don't know. You can consult with the town attorney's office on that or the department. But pay all your other permit fees, okay? Let's be
Okay.
clear. All right.
All
So
right.
now the
You'll hear
bills
from us
are closed, I
shortly.
just mailed them in?
Yeah, however you would pay for them.
Okay, thank you very much for your
Oh,
time. tonight.
thank you. Have a great night.
You too, thank you, guys.
All right.
Did we get a decision here? We did, right?
We reserved.
We did it.
Okay.
We did it.
All right. Yes, we did. it.
All right, next item, number 363-20, McDonald's USA LLC. Permission to install an additional menu board and preview board where only one of each is permitted Business 3 District, northwest corner of Fifth Avenue and Spur Drive North, Bay Shore, New York. Is anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, there's an expediter here for the applicant. I've moved her to panelist. There we go.
Can everybody hear me?
Sure.
I can hear you.
Done.
Okay, hi, good evening. Thanks for hosting the meeting via Zoom. For the record, my name is Tara Ponteseca with Expedite the Deal. Office is located at 6487 Hilliard Drive in Canal, Winchester, Ohio. I'd like to
Can you
read my
spell your last
presentation.
name, please? I'm
Yes.
sorry, can you spell the last name?
Yes, it's P as in Peter, U, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, A, S as in Sam, E, C as in Charles, C as in Charles, A.
So you must be like the happiest person that this is done by Zoom, huh?
Yeah.
You know, I'm in Jersey. Our offices are in Ohio. So either way, it wouldn't have been too bad. I like coming out to your area.
Right, that's a good answer.
Yeah, right. What are you gonna say? I hate it.
Diplomatic answer.
Anything but Long Island.
That's not bad, except for the traffic.
That's it.
So I'd like to read this presentation into the record. The property located at 1484 Fifth Avenue in Bay Shore is an existing McDonald's restaurant. This location currently has a dual lane drive-through with existing drive-through menu boards. Each lane currently has its own 45 square foot main menu board with 4 panels. Currently, the lanes share one pre-browse menu board. Together, all of the drive-through signage that is currently in place totals over 100 square feet with 3 footers in total. If the board approves today's proposal, it would result in a reduction of the current nonconformity in terms of the overall square footage. We propose one new main menu board for each lane and one new pre-browse menu board for each lane. The current main menu boards that are in place are approximately 45 square feet each. The new digital menu boards being proposed are only 17.6 square feet. They're only 2 attached panels instead of 4. The current pre-browse menu board that is in place, which both lanes share, is approximately 10 square feet. And the new pre-browse boards we are proposing for each lane are only 8.8 square feet. This would mean that the new drive-through signage would total only 52.8 square feet, about half of what's there now. It's important to know that the menu board system being proposed is exactly that. It's a system. The pre-browse boards are more than just arbitrary displays. They're designed to work together with the main menu board in a way that helps patrons make their decisions faster and more intelligently. The pre-browse boards are integral to having each lane of the drive-through, whereas now they only have the one. When you consider that these signs are digital, easily programmable to update and show new menu items or popular menu items, you can understand how a patron needs to be able to experience this board regardless of what lane they use in the drive-through. And if you'd like, I can go through the variance criteria.
No, that's okay. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So what you propose to do, it will be half this sign space that was previous, but you'll just have an extra pre-browse sign and an extra menu board?
That's right. So instead of the 3 footers, it would be 4 separate footers, 4 separate signs with half the amount of square footage.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Agent from planning, any objection from planning department?
No objections. They already went through us and we discussed it during the sign review. It's just a necessity and it's easy for the traffic flow to go through the site.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan will take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Application granted. You have a great night.
Thanks so much, gentlemen and ladies. Take care.
Thank you. Application number 364-20, Rostam C. and Francia M. Sangalang. Permission to leave above-ground pool having side yard of 11.5 feet instead of the required 18 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Yale Avenue, 580 feet south of Waterford Road, Oakdale. Is anyone here for the application?
Yes, they are. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Good evening. How are you?
Hi, we're well. Hope
Name
you
it.
are too.
Thank you so much.
I'm
We are.
Rostam Sangalang, and this is my wife, Francia Sangalang.
Great. You're here seeking permission to leave an above-ground pool, having started at 11.5 instead of required 18?
Yes,
How long has the above-ground pool been up?
since 2006.
Since 2006, so, okay, 13 years, 14 years. Deirdre from planning, any precedent?
Excuse me?
I'm talking to Deirdre from planning.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
There's no precedent, but because this is a 278 cluster, I think generally the setbacks are usually 14 feet, or they were 14 feet before they got upzoned. Is that correct, Mary?
Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. I'm responding to somebody was in the Q&A.
Mary's hard at work. I
really
think
am,
you're
guys.
correct,
It's like a
Deirdre.
busy night. I'm sorry, Deirdre, what was that question?
Because it's in the cluster.
I didn't think Waterford Road was a cluster subdivision. I
Oh,
think
sorry. It
we
was
had
like
been,
the next one. I'm
yeah,
so
Tortora was the cluster subdivision.
sorry.
The-
No
the-
objections.
The properties here are large. I know the area well. I recommend, obviously, we have to see if anyone wants to be heard in the board's vote, but I recommend life of the pool, which means if you should have to do any fix or changes to the above ground pool, sir, you'd have to move it to a compliant location. Do you agree with that?
Excuse me, what's that again?
So with above ground pools, we sometimes vote on if there's any change to the pool, i.e. liner, roping, you would move the pool above, or if you replace the pool completely, you have to move it to a compliant location.
Okay.
All right. So call
If
that
we
life
are
of the
to
pool.
replace it, right?
Yes, you'd have to shift it over.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Ms. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application for the life of the pool.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted for life of the pool, sir. Have a great night.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Take care.
Application number 365-20, Amanda Totora. Permission to install in-ground pool, leaving a side yard of 10 feet and rear yard of 14 feet instead of the required 18 feet each. Residence AA District 278 cluster south of side of Nimbus Road, 94.37 feet east of Thunder Road, Holbrook, New York. Is anyone here for the applicant?
You're so much better at reading than I am.
Because I only have to concentrate on one thing, Mr. Chairman. You're doing three things at once. I mean, let's be fair.
Is anyone here on 365-20?
We have two
Yes.
people here.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Good, thanks. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Nancy Lang. I'm with Long Island Pool and Patio. The address is 543 Middle Country Road in Quorum.
How are you tonight?
Very good, thanks. So as you know, that we're here for setbacks for a proposed 16 by 32 in-ground pool. And if you could see from the survey that they have an irregular shaped property that basically cuts their yard in half. And the far southwest corner, we figured would be the best location for this modest sized pool. And it allows their existing garden area with the 12-inch block wall to remain intact. And basically,
And you're in
I'm sorry?
You're in a 278 cluster too, correct, right? So it drops down, I believe, Mary, to 14-foot side yards if it was
Yeah.
278 cluster?
Deirdre, do you have the major subdivision there? The typical lot layout in the map of Greenbelt shows side yard setbacks at 14 feet, not 18 feet.
You want me to pull
Right.
it up?
Well, but the side yard is 10. It's the rear yard that's 14 here, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Let me just get it. Sorry.
And since Deirdre's looking for something, let the record reflect that Ms. Totora is on as well.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
She's making us work from her car. She's much smarter
I
than
know.
all
I'm
of us.
sorry. I just got off work.
The air condition is better there, right?
Reboot the, oh, that's yours. I'm sorry.
Sorry. So it's the 4th page, I believe.
Yep.
Was it down here? This small?
What are you showing us, Deirdre, or what are you attempting to
It's
show
right
us?
on the right side of the 4th page where it says map of section 5 Greenbelt Park. And below that, zoned in double A district minimum lot area, 20,000 is the certified at all lots shown hereon conform to existing zoning regulations, except as amended by ISO Town Planning. Is that what falls it down, drop down to double A?
So this is the reason why we read 278 cluster after the zoning category in the call of the meeting. It's trying to make it clear that although the zoning is technically double A, which would require 20,000 square foot, as we know, the map of Greenbelt, several of the lots maintain less than double A requirements, 20,000 square foot, or less than the 100-foot of width requirement, or they can't meet the side yards. They weren't designed to meet the side yard setback requirements of 18. So that's the reason why every time we read 278 cluster, we're alerting the board that the requirements as written in the call of the meeting are traditional as they appear in the code, not as they appear in the cluster subdivision.
So that really what you're saying here is that there's, according to that theory, there's no rear yard variance needed. There's just the side yard variance from 14 to 10, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm assuming planning has no objection to the side yard then?
No objections.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Application number 366-20, Marak Niricado. Permission to erect second-story addition, 28.3 feet by 32.4 feet, resulting in a new structure, leaving a front yard of 23.54 feet instead of the required 30 feet, and side yard of 8.69 feet instead of the required 14 feet. Residence A District, north side of Roslyn Street, 240 feet west of Kinagunda Place, Islip Terrace, New York. Is anyone here for the applicant?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, my name is Adrian Narodko. This is my father, Merrick Narodko, 45 Roslyn Street.
Good evening. Do you seek permission to erect a second-story addition, leaving front yard 23.54 to the 30 and side yard 8.69 instead of 14? So you're not expanding the footprint of the home as it sits now? You're just going straight above it?
Going straight above, yes.
And the home holds 8.69 as we speak, correct, on the side yard?
Yes.
And it also holds 23.54 front yard?
Yes.
Correct. All right. I'm assuming, Deidre, no objection from planning?
No objections. There's a lot of precedent for the front yard and a few precedents for the side yard.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Waxaw, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Great, thank you very much.
you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Next application was adjourned from March 3rd, 2020, number 198-20, Rose Rack LLC. Permission to erect self-storage facility with 1 3-story building having a rear yard of 25.11 feet and 2 1-story buildings having a rear yard of 32.62 feet instead of the required 50 feet each. Industrial 1 District, each side of Freeman Avenue, approximately 522 feet south of Spur Drive South, Islip, New York. Is anyone here for the applicant?
We have,
Yeah.
Hi, and Mr. Seglioka is also on the call, if you could find him.
he's in.
Hi, it's Marty Racanelli. I'm here. Mark was on mute, but I think he's off now.
I think, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Okay.
All right,
Mark,
time out. Did I hear Marty Racanelli was on this call?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this. I think I've represented either Mr. Racanelli and or his family in my prior life in Islip, so I would ask to be recused from this matter.
No problem. Let the record show that Mr. Messina is recusing himself from this matter. Good evening. Name and address for the record, whoever is going to speak on this application.
Yes, Mark Saglioka with offices at 131 East Main Street, Bay Shore. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good evening, sir. I remember you, last time you were in front of us, we recommended that possibly you went and speak to planning and try and make the relief a little more palatable.
That's correct. On March 3rd, we came to the ZBA asking for those variances. Both planning department and the ZBA felt that they were egregious and asked if we could refit the building so that a more palatable variance could be entertained by the ZBA. In doing so, we pushed the building closer to Freeman Avenue and was able to refit the parking to allow for a change in the variance from the original 10 feet to now 25.1 for the 3-story building and 32.62 from the 27.5 on the 1-story building. The property that abuts us to the east, where the rear yard variance is being entertained, is also our property and has been approved for an apartment rental community, which are 2.5 stories high. The self-storage building and the apartment buildings are approximately 125 feet in separation from each other. Both will be constructed and managed by us. And as per the recommendation of the last hearing with the ZBA and our meeting that we had with the planning post ZBA, we have included additional landscaping. We proposed 5 large 8 to 10 Zelkova trees on the self-storage side and approximately 96 arborvitaes or Leyland cypress evergreens on the apartment side to give additional coverage between the two.
So what you're saying is your adjacent rear yard in question would only be negatively impacting your own property?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And that you're spoke with planning and they're in agreement with the buffering that you're proposing?
I believe so.
Deidre, is that the case?
Yep, they spoke with us and we came to the compromise of having 50% relief rather than I think 80% relief. So we're completely fine with this now.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of order, I don't know if the last hearing we used the term egregious. I think it was more excessive rather than egregious, just so the record's clear. I don't know if we speak in terms of egregiousness when zoning. I don't think we've ever had an application that's egregious.
All right, I stand corrected.
Life-threatening. I mean, it's only zoning. Do you agree, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, I think we've seen some egregious stuff. Not
You're
this,
referring
but
to the
it's-
applications I used to bring, Mr. Sullivan. They were not egregious.
No, none of yours. None of
Totally
yours.
out of control. Those are just way over the top.
All right, great. So Deirdre from Planning's in approval of the applicant
Yes.
proposal?
Wrote a memo, if anyone wanted to see it. I think I emailed it to everyone on board, but I have it in case anyone wanted to see.
Yep, and it states at the bottom of the last line, bullet point of the memo, planning recommends that the original proposed rear yard 10 feet be denied and amended rear yard 20 feet be granted. All right, great.
And
Is
just
anyone-
one, yeah, just one further thing for the record, since we do encourage pre-hearing participation with these COVID Zoom hearings. We did send public notices to the 3 people that appeared at the March 3rd hearing, which was adjourned to April 21. So they were notified 10 days ago and have not contacted the office. And I don't believe they have Zoomed in.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. West, I'll take a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we grant this non-egregious application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Everybody be
thank you,
well.
everybody. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Take care.
Next application number 367-20, Paul V. and Melissa Latrenta. Permission to exceed compensating excavating provisions, section 68-442A3C and 68443, by leaving a surplus of 52 cubic yards of fill on property in the floodplain, Residence A District, east side of Piper Court, 153.4 feet south of Skipper Drive, West Islip. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
He's here. I just promoted him to panelist.
I want to live on Skipper Drive. It's a great name of a road.
Right?
Skipper Drive.
Paul, I think there we go. He's unmuted.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Paul Latrenta. I'm a owner and resident at 11 Piper Court in West Islip, New York. And my wife and I are seeking permission to leave the 52 cubic yards of surplus fill from our in-ground pool dig on our rear property.
Good evening, Mr. Trenta. I believe, Peter, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 52 cubic yards of fill is somewhat diminished. We've heard in the past, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a somewhat smaller amount compared to other larger excavating and compensation projects that are more impacting on the neighborhood and property in general, but this is very minimal.
But why would we permit any to be left there in excess of that allowed by code? I mean, what's the rationale for that?
Of excavating compensation?
Yeah.
Generally, applicants are asked to do that when they're building up their bulkhead or their land so that other areas don't get flooded. So if someone builds up their bulkhead along your property, you're living on the water, if they build their bulkhead up, then everything's going to drain out to your property and the neighboring properties. So this is kind of a way to stop that overflow of water going and affecting other people.
So it improves drainage then between the two properties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is clearly one of the factors we have to consider on any variance. So understood. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wax, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a great night. Appreciate it.
Application number 3.
I'm just going to, I'll be back in 1 second. All right.
All right. Do you want me to call the application, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Before you start, Mr. Messina, this next case is a public hearing renewal of an accessory apartment. I'm writing the people whose names I don't recognize in the attendee list, but I haven't got a response. So I'm going to move them both to panelist and hope that one is the applicant and one might possibly be the person who has concerns. So bear with me. Go ahead.
Thank you. Application number 368-20, Malik Khatak, to renew permit for accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-616, Residence AA District, southeast corner of 5th Avenue and Bailey Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Hold on, let me see if I gave them permission to speak yet. So today I spoke with Malik's son. Who
Yeah,
was
is there anyone here for the applicant? Let's be
Yes,
clear.
this is me. I am here.
Okay, great. So you come up as Umar Jamil.
Yeah. Omar Jamil is my son. Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. All right. Sir, we had some concerns the last time, or there are concerns. That's why you're having a public hearing. Ms. Pissarro, can you tell us what triggered the public hearing for this application,
We have
please?
a letter in the file from a neighbor who lives on Bailey Road, who discusses the difficulty with the overflow parking that happens on Bailey Road, very close to its corner with Fifth Avenue, which is a very busy location of Fifth Avenue.
Mhm.
So the person says the overflow parking onto Bailey, close to the corner, is making it very difficult for them to safely maneuver in and out of Bailey onto Fifth Avenue.
And does that person specifically attribute the overflow parking to this site, this particular site?
Well, yeah, oh yes, because we mail to everybody within 200 feet when somebody wishes to renew their accessory apartment.
No, I know where you mailed to. I'm asking if the person who wrote the letter said that it was the property at 1525 Fifth Avenue that was causing the overflow condition on Bailey.
Yes, I do. Is the chairman
Okay.
back with us? Because
Yep, I'm with you. Yep. They,
All right, sorry, I didn't see you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't
No,
mean to
that's
steal your
okay.
thunder.
No, take it.
He's got the
Would
letter.
you like me to read you the portion of the letter that's?
My question is answered unless the applicant wants to hear it. I don't think it's necessary, but.
Yes, sir. Can I talk?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir. My name is Malik Atak. How are you, sir? Everybody.
How are you tonight?
Oh, good, sir. Sir, the thing is, I live in this house this past 20 years. I have this accessory apartment almost 10 something years, This guy never told me, but this is a main Fifth Avenue. If somebody park over there, sir, I cannot do anything to tell somebody to remove your car. If it's my car, I have a parking lot, I have a driveway which is 4 car can fix, and my car have my house towards the Bailey Avenue have a long, side.
Sir, I think the allegation is that it's your tenants and or the people living in your portion of the house that are parking on Bailey and creating the problem. Not
Sir, if
strangers coming in and parking. This directly attributing the problem to your parcel.
The thing is, if the car is parked in my side, which is not like that. Watch, I have 3 children. Everyone is going to college, They have cars, of course. I have 4 cars. And my tenant, they have 2 cars. But I have a 4 cars put in my driveway and the 2 cars outside.
But
The
sir,
problem-
you have to, let me interrupt you a second real quick, sir. I believe the ordinance states that in order to have an accessory apartment, you have to be able to fit the cars in your driveway.
That's certainly,
cars.
if that's not the letter, that's certainly the spirit of the ordinance,
The
Mr.
spirit
Chair.
of the ordinance.
It
Yeah.
may well be the letter as well. I don't,
No, they actually, this, my neighbor, he is with me like a past 20, or like 15 years. He never told me that. If he told me, first of all, I don't put their car. Of course, there are maybe 1-2 cars in front of the road on Bailey Avenue in front of my house, like the side of my house, which is a legal parking there. And I didn't bother them. When his car is coming out, it's coming directly towards my driveway, which is not a problem because I cannot block my driveway and it's a plenty space over there. But I don't know what is his concern. If he can explain me that this is my concern, he's my good neighbor, I can, help to resolve everything with them. If there are any issue that he has with me or with my tenant, I will resolve with it, But he never told me, sir. And the house, it's like too large, over there, too many cars can fit. But my cars, only I have 4 cars. And four of them is parked in my driveway. And my tenant, he has 1 car and put it outside. But there are other.
Excuse me, Mary, could you let us know what is the capacity for the driveway? 4 cars?
The requirement is that 4 cars fit, and the measurement for that, as I like to say, is double wide and double deep.
So they have 5 cars at this residence, and that's with nobody visiting.
or 6, Mr. Chairman Emeritus.
Yes, thank you. So 6. So how can it not be overflow parking on the street? It has to. And that's if nobody ever visits.
I have 4 cars. I have
That,
4
wait,
car driving.
that wasn't, wait, I'm just kind of putting that out for the rest of the members. Sir, I'm sorry if anybody wants to chime in. I think it's a built-in problem.
I have a 4 cars driveway, which is legal by the department, and 4 car can fit easily over there.
Yes, but sir, let me interrupt you a second. The code states that the 4-car driveway, as Mary says, that she like to say that the driveway has to be double wide and double deep. That is for your tenants also, not just for your residents in your house, your family.
I have 4 cars. Altogether, we have 5 cars now.
I understand how many cars you have, but that does not mean that your tenants can park in the street. You understand?
And there are, sir, one other issue. If someone can come over there next to my house on Bailey Avenue, it's a big pothole over there. Big pothole over there, and the problem over there.
Okay, sir, that's not us.
We're not talking about potholes.
No,
Full
I'm not
Department of
talking
Public
about.
Works. That
No,
has
let me
nothing
tell
to
you,
do, sir, it has nothing to do with us. Okay?
My concern is, sir, the other house cars coming in front of my house, they park the car over there because over there are flood of water, and now it's standing by over there too. The next house to my car.
Okay, I got
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I'm ready to vote.
Well, we need to hear from the public, Mr. Wetzel.
And maybe Deirdre, if you don't mind, would you share the aerial at this point so the board can get a feel for the parking situation?
Ms. Pissarro, is someone here to speak on this?
There is somebody present who I've moved into panelist and tried to communicate with, but they may just be listening.
Is anyone here? Anyone wish to be heard in this application? So, sir, you understand the accessory apartment code with regards to parking and your driveway?
Yes, when I was applying it first time, they come and they check my driveway. There was a 4-car space. It can fit.
I understand that. So you know that you have to have 4 cars. You have to have a driveway that fits 4 cars, right? We understand that.
Yes,
that includes your tenants.
Okay.
So
you said something. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, go ahead.
I
Go ahead,
apologize.
Go ahead.
Sir, you said something before that struck a chord with me. So you said if you had the opportunity to discuss this with your neighbor and work it out, you would have done so, right?
Yes, I will so.
Okay, so would you like an adjournment so you could have the opportunity to speak to your neighbor and try to work this out before we vote on this?
Definitely, sir. If you want, I can talk to him, and whatever he likes.
No, it's what you want, not what we want. If you
Sir,
could work
yes.
this out with your neighbor, it might go a little better for you.
100%, sir. I agree with you, sir.
All
Please
right.
give me a chance.
Then,
I can
Mr.
talk
Chairman,
to him.
I would move we adjourn to a date acceptable to the secretary so that this gentleman can speak to his neighbor and they can work out their issues together.
I second that.
I would be fine with that. And of course, I am going to be fine with that because it's my job. But I already relayed all this to Mr. Katak when we spoke about 2 months ago when he asked for a hearing date.
Okay, but now he's held out an olive branch, so let's see if he pursues that.
Okay. All right.
So when's the next adjourn date, Mary?
Well, we know we're going to meet again in 2 weeks. That's not enough time. And then we're looking at our August dates, which aren't exactly set yet. But why don't we say August 18?
Why don't we just say a date in August that the board will be meeting? When you could set the exact one, Ms. Pissarro. Okay?
Okay, Malik. So then we'll have to have you correspond with the office and reflect your conversations with the person who's concerned in July so that we can schedule you.
Definitely, sir. Can I ask you something, sir?
Sure.
Let us
What
vote
about-
first. There's a motion on the floor, so let us vote first.
Yeah. Can I? The thing is, if my-
One second, sir. 1 second. Give us 1 second, and we'll let you speak in 1 moment. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn to an open date in the month of August to be selected by the secretary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sir, can I say?
Mr. Katak, you can speak, Ted.
Yeah, sir, if I am not present at August date, if my son is present because I want to go abroad for doing something, if it's possible. And the other thing is, kindly can I have the information for the person that I think it's crossed the street to my house. I can talk to him. If we can written something, and submit it before the hearing over there. Is it okay? If he
Sure.
signed something and I signed something and we can submit it to the board in the office.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. If I am not present, then it's okay, sir?
Yes.
Thank you so much and God bless you all.
And
God bless you too.
Malik, just so we know, is your son still with us? Your son was Umar Jamil, is how the name came up?
Yes, this is his name, sir. Oh, madam, I'm sorry.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And don't forget that there's somebody who called in and somebody who wrote in when you go looking for the neighbors that have
So
concerns.
is it possible that who are they and that I can talk to them?
I don't know how the board feels about that.
Well, he can
It's a
go talk
letter
to-
in the
wait,
file. He can see it and he can see where
he
it comes from.
And he can talk to anybody he wants.
That's exactly right. And that file is a public record, so he is entitled to a copy of that letter.
Why don't
So-
we not make that public and let him contact Mary privately for the names of the people who he has to talk to?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
he'd have to go, where'd you come from, by the way?
I've
He'd have
been
to
here. I've
go,
been here the whole time.
He'd have
He was
to,
here. He was here when I logged on, that's for certain.
So what should I do? How I can contact? If I tell somebody,
Oh.
he says, no, I did it.
All right,
So this
sir,
will be-
call the office in the morning, okay?
Thank you so much.
We have to
Thank you.
move along. Thank you very
Hopefully,
much.
Hopefully Mary will help you with that.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
have a great night.
Fine, she's very helpful. Application number 369-20. Timmy Lamb and Anna Chang. Permission to reconstruct retaining wall 4.7 feet high, leaving side yards and rear yards of 1 foot instead of required 4.7 each. Residence A District, Northwest Terminal of Laurie Way, Hopog, New York. Is anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, they are. I'm promoting them right now, the applicant and their attorney.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Chair and members of the board. For the applicant, David J. Moran, 96 South Ocean Avenue, Patchogue, New York. Good to see you all, and I hope all is well.
Good evening, Mr. Moran. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Moran.
Hey, guys. By way of background, my client purchased this property in 2018, November 2018. In the spring of that same year, spring of 2019, approximately 6 or 7 months after he purchased the property, a retaining wall collapsed on the, as you look at the home, on the left side of the property. The neighbor did complain to the town saying that his neighbor's retaining wall fell onto my property. He put in an insurance claim on that retaining wall. The town was kind enough to come out and issue summonses for the collapsed retaining wall, which were ultimately dismissed because it was determined that the retaining wall was actually on the complaining neighbor's property.
They would never do that in Brookhaven, correct?
Never, sir. They determined, insurance company disclaimed. We compelled our client to do an updated survey, which determined that the retaining wall in question was actually on the neighboring property. He has no means to fix that retaining wall. It's not his. The property is deteriorating quite quickly without the retaining wall, as it has not been replaced. And we're here today to seek a variance to put the retaining wall 1 foot from the property line instead of the required 4.7, which the 4.7 is the exact height of the retaining wall that collapsed. I emailed a series of pictures to Mary. Hopefully the board has viewed them or had the opportunity to view them. You'll see in this area of the wonderful town of Islip, there is a dramatic changes in elevation and topography, and we could have took pictures of retaining walls all day.
So,
We
Mr.
know
Moran,
Hopog
I'm
very
a little
well, so.
confused. Are we replacing in kind what was there, or are we putting it in a new location?
In kind's a tough word. It's the same height, but it's not in kind because the wall's not on our property. The wall that fell was on the
So you-
neighboring property.
You're representing in essence the neighbor, so to speak.
No,
right?
I'm representing in essence the applicant who is the owner of the property who that retaining wall supported. It just was never on his property.
Mr. Moran, are you saying that the wall as it was built was not on the applicant's property? However, the same exact wall is going to be rebuilt, but except this time on your client's property. And that is the reason why it's not in kind, because it was over there, now it's over here.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nicolia. Thank you. That was an excellent.
The wall was never my client's wall.
You have a picture, Mr. Moran?
It just happened to support my client's property.
We do have pictures. Deirdre, did you
Yeah.
have trouble getting them in the document?
Yeah, Bill?
I'm looking, I see a red fence.
Yeah, right next to that, is that a regular wall?
Oh, that's the wall?
Yep. And then,
I see.
hold on.
Oh, I see. All right,
Good
I
job.
appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the wall collapsed.
Right. If
And
if we were not to grant this, Mr. Moran, what would happen to your client's property?
It's already substantially deteriorating. If this application is not granted, it'll be a short time. He has multiple retaining walls on the property already. It'll be a short time before some certain structures, including he has a concrete basketball court in the rear yard that ultimately will just sink into the neighbor's yard as well.
Well, it would also affect your neighbor's property as well, right?
Dramatically, and it
Right.
continues to do so.
So Dave, just for the record, Dave, your client is building this wall on his property, not where it was prior to, not on his property.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. He's building a wall that he could actually maintain and keep sturdy because it's supporting his entire property.
On
And
his property, though, we can't, obviously, we have no jurisdictions outside the property line.
Correct. He wants to build it on his property as close to the property line as possible because there are some structures that it supports and there's multiple retaining walls on the property, if you could see from any surveys that were submitted. And at the end of the day, there's obviously no undesirable change in the character of this neighborhood. We're basically replacing a wall approximately 2 feet away from the original wall at the same height. This property has significant grade changes. The entire neighborhood is made up of retaining walls. The benefits, so it really can't be achieved by any method except a retaining wall that's actually my client's to maintain. It keeps his property stable. We believe it's the least restrictive variance because, as stated eloquently by the board, it's the same height. So it's not in kind because it's not going in the same location, but it's going to the most suitable location on my client's property. Obviously, no adverse impact. In fact, it's a benefit because my client's property will continue to melt into the neighbor's property if this is not granted. And it's not a self-created hardship because the wall's not his. Him or the prior owner had no duty to maintain that wall. It wasn't theirs or on their property. And he's just looking to stabilize his property and protect his investment where him and his family live.
Mr. Moran, how does the neighbor feel about all of this?
The neighbor had originally complained to the town because she alleged that my client was not maintaining the wall and it fell onto her property and he couldn't clean it up initially because he was waiting for an insurance claim. So the insurance company determined that it wasn't his retaining wall, which was supported by surveys, which ultimately led to the tickets the town issued being dismissed because they had no jurisdiction over, he had no nexus to the wall. The neighbor, although now aware of all these facts, allows the retaining wall to still remain in its condition on her property to a detriment to my client.
How does she feel about this application?
You have to ask her, Chris. I don't.
Is she here?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let me ask if anyone's wishing to hear this.
I will say, however, we spoke to the neighbor to the right. The direct neighbor to the right, I submitted some pictures in one of the emails. She's in the process of doing some retaining walls on her own property due to this topography. And she expressed to me verbally that she was in support of the application.
Dave, we're trying to get your photos. There was just a little confusion. I had asked you to copy Deirdre so Deirdre could load them, but you didn't send the photos in your name, they got sent in another Deirdre's name. So Deirdre from planning wasn't sure.
Okay. The pictures show retaining walls.
Okay, no
That's
worries.
pretty much what they said. They
Thank you,
show
Mr.
retaining
Moran.
walls everywhere in this neighborhood.
As always, an excellent presentation. sir.
And
Thank you.
materials to build retaining walls and a collapsed retaining wall and, you know,
Right.
like, there was one picture that showed some deterioration on my client's property, which we're looking to remedy.
I think, what do you think the best of the three is? Because I can send them to the board pretty quickly right now.
I
No,
just showed, I
let's-
showed them
I don't
already.
think
Mary,
it's
I don't need them.
necessary.
I get this application. I don't need the pictures.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, no, I take Mr. Moran at his word.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Jesus, Kyle. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. I
I'll
think
make it,
you're
Mr.
on
Chair.
Yeah.
I think you're on
apparently
that
you're
mute.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move to grant the application.
Application granted.
Did I unmute?
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great evening.
Have a great night.
So long.
Hi, Dave.
Bye.
Was I muted?
All right, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman, if
You are, yeah.
if I can impose on the board, the next application is one I have to recuse on as well. So if we
Oh.
could put that to the end, so that I could sit with you for the next couple, I would appreciate that.
Well, do you just want to sit out for this application and we'll move
If
forward?
I do, I'm gonna sit out for the remainder. So that's fine.
Don't you have something with your daughter to do tonight?
I do indeed. I have a family
So why don't-
obligation.
Why don't
But
you
I
go?
am-
That's more important.
Well, I want to make sure that you have a quorum and enough people to vote too, so.
Well, we have four of us. We have all of us. If you had to leave it, please.
I have a spotty internet connection at best, but even still, we still have a quorum.
Yeah,
Okay.
I vote that we vote him off the board for tonight.
I'm off the island, huh?
Off the island.
All right. So then
Bye-bye.
I will take my leave and I thank everyone for your courtesy.
No, we'll
Enjoy
enjoy
your
it.
evening,
I
Take
will
care.
wish
Good
Ms.
night.
Burbick
Now
good
I got
luck.
to read. Now I have to read.
You want me to read?
Nah, yeah, sure,
I know
Mr.
it's
Watson.
tough for you, but if you sound it out, it will work.
I think Bill misses reading.
Can I read one? A short one.
You can read.
All
Bill.
right. Number 370, Kings and Queens Transload LLC. Permission to erect transfer station leaving height of 48.92 feet instead of permitted 30 feet, industrial 1, west side of MJ Boulevard, 1,409 feet south of westerly terminus of Clark Boulevard, Brentwood, New York.
Before we start, I
you.
have a question. Deirdre, I don't know about everybody else, but I haven't seen you change the screen
Yeah.
since quite a few applications ago. I wonder if something's not functioning right.
I've been changing the screen.
It looks all the same to us.
It's all the same.
Yeah, that's why those photos weren't coming up. You are still on an application. The
Greenbelt
cluster,
Parkway.
yeah, the cluster. So about 7 ago.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and log off and come back on.
Okay.
I just thought everybody had a similar survey. I didn't even realize it.
No, that's why we were so confused about the photos.
I had the photos and everything. Okay.
Oh, darn it.
Hey, Willie's there. You know Willie.
It's been there the whole time.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we never saw Malik Katak's aerial or anything like that. In the meantime, the applicant who is present on this application has asked, and I acquiesced, that she not have to pick out a fancy outfit for the hearing, and she's with us on the phone, and we won't see her.
Do you see the plan now?
Yep,
Yes.
came up.
Okay, sorry.
All right, Bill.
So you got
Okay.
it? All right, done.
Good evening. This is Amy Burbett, 71 Bridge Street, Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts, as attorney for Kings and Queens Transload LLC. The variance request in front of the board relates to a solid waste transfer station application, which is pending both in front of the New York State DEC and the Town Planning Department. It is a permitted use in an industrial 1 zone, which this is. The height limitation in an industrial 1 zone for buildings is 60 feet. However, as part of the authorization for a transfer station approval in the Town of Islip Town Code, Chapter 21 imposes 14 additional requirements for site plan review. And one of those requirements is the building height is limited to 30 feet. We're seeking, as I said, a variance to allow the height up to 48.92 feet, which will allow both transfer trailers carrying waste and other vehicles to be able to back in and fully dump deposits, construction and demolition debris on the tipping floor inside the building.
So what you're stating that is if this were a straight building, industrial 1, the height would be 60 feet, you're asking for 48.92.
I'm saying if it was not a transfer station and subject to Chapter 21 of the Town Code with respect to additional requirements for site plan approval, it would be a 60-foot height limitation. But Chapter 21-13-1 13 sets the maximum height of a transfer station shall be 30 feet. This facility there was a facility previously occupying this site that got approved and a variance was granted for this exact same building that we're constructing back in 2004. So there has been a grant by the board previously for height relaxation on the building. Not
I believe it was
terribly
45,
relevant or
correct?
pertinent to this application, but
Yep, I believe it was around 45, if I'm correct on that whole.
yes.
Yep. All right, great. There's Deidre from planning.
No objections. They were originally granted at 45, like she mentioned. They're just asking for a few more feet above. And I hope you know this, but in the aerial, they do butt up against a buffer zone here. So it's not a huge impact on a neighborhood in that sense that it's at the far end of it, a little bit more out of the way. And I spoke with Jessica Joyce, who kind of dealt with this a little bit more. And we spoke about even the street access. You're really only going down that street if you're going to a specific warehouse. So seems minimal.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I may have missed a little bit. My internet connection down in the basement where I'm currently located is not fantastic. This is going to be a transfer station, so I assume indoors you're going to be storing some sort of either solid waste or recyclable material, construction debris. What is going to be stored in there? What are you contemplating?
We're not. It's a rail transfer facility. The entire western boundary of the site is serviced by a siding that is a direct connect with the New York and Atlantic, what many people call the Brentwood Yard. They call the Pioneer Switch Yard. But the facility is going to accept construction and demolition debris, but up to 80% of it, not less than 80% of it, is going to be pre-processed at other transfer stations, so that the material will be brought in transfer trailers, deposited on the floor, and then directly loaded into rail cars where it'll be shipped. The balance of the C&D debris will come from smaller roll-off trucks like you'd see servicing construction sites in the town. It's also going to handle 800 tons of baled, contained municipal solid waste, but that is not going to be tipped in the building. It's going to come in on trailers, flatbed trailers. It's also being baled at other permitted transfer stations. So it comes into the site on a flatbed, comes to the side of the building, and is directly loaded from the flatbed into either an intermodal rail container or a car with a lid, a rail car with a lid, and then pushed out. So it is, the building is truly, and I'll answer the question, which is it has a maximum storage capacity for C&D only of, I think, about 3,000 tons. But it is truly a transfer station. It is not as much a processing facility. Because there's going to be very little processing done there on the C&D. And as I said, there's going to be no processing, tipping, or anything else of the bales. They're just coming in and being pulled through the building, so they're under cover while they're being loaded, either into an intermodal container or a rail car. And then, as I said, the intermodal container is closed, the rail car is and/or sealed and pushed out of the building and queued out onto the rail spur.
So where I was going with this is sometimes these types of facilities do present some sort of fire hazard or fire risk. What kind of fire mitigation are you going to have in the building?
Well, we're required to have it sprinklered. It does have a main that comes into the property, which was, we know, is effective because the prior building is the one that burned to the ground in October of 2013. And that was, however, it was a C&D transfer station, also had loose MSW in it. But we have a fire suppression system that's in the building. And again, part of the design of this one being pure transfer and not processing is there shouldn't really be much stored in the building because of our capacity to load it in the rail cars and get it out. Each of the rail cars holds 100 tons as opposed to the previous operation, which was overwhelmingly trucks in, trucks out, and a typical transfer trailer that's going to exit the site would hold about 20 tons as opposed to a rail car, which is going to hold 100 tons.
Okay, I'm happy.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary.
Hi, Amy.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to have to take a quick 5-minute break. I will be back in a moment.
We have no. Is Billy?
Mr. Wexler still here? It's me and you.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
All right.
Hands
good.
up.
We're gonna call him now. Are you reading next one, Mr. Wexler, or you want me to read?
Oh, you want me to read it? I'll read it. All right. Number 371, Matthew and Nicole Dower. Permission to erect second-story addition 31 by 40, leaving side yard of 4 feet instead of required 18 feet, and rear yard of 14.5 feet instead of required 25 feet. Additions resulting in new structure leaving dwelling on a lot having width of 60 feet instead of required 75 feet. Lot area of 18,800 square feet instead of required 20,000 square feet. Leaving side yard of 3.7 feet instead of required 18 feet. Rear yard of 14.5 feet instead of required 25 feet. And to leave detached garage 20.3 by 25.3 having side yard of 4.7 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Green Lawn Avenue, 172 feet south of Cedarhurst Street, Islip, New York. Islip Terrace, New York.
Can we hear an application 371-20?
They
Yes.
are here. Okay, there they are.
We're here.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Name and address.
Name and address for the record, please.
Nicole and Matthew Dower, 870 Green Lawn Avenue, Islip Terrace, New York.
How are you tonight?
Okay, how are you?
Good.
Hope everybody's family's doing well in these times.
We're doing well. Thank you for asking. Hope you guys are doing well also.
Likewise, thank you.
I'm going to defer right to Deirdre from planning real quick because it appears that this dwelling has some side yard, some relief as it sits in this area. So I'm going to defer right to Deirdre from planning real quick. Deirdre, you on?
Yep. I'm here. So it seems like this house has been here at least since 1978, if not 1960.
1932.
Yeah, so it's been there for a very long time.
My great grandfather built it in 1932.
Nice, awesome.
So
That's
Yeah.
great.
if you look at this circled area, this is the rear yard it's talking about. Just because there's the notch in the property, that's what the rear yard is addressing. If there wasn't this notch, it would have this huge, I think 154.9 rear yard, or that might just be even to the garage. And it does, if anything, really the house would impact the backyards of these three houses, or really these two houses. So just because of how old the house is, it was there before a lot of other houses were even
Right.
built. I really don't have any
Exactly.
objections to it.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to defer the planning prior to. So without the, this would be something, this application would be totally different, is what you're saying, correct? I heard you. No?
We can't understand
Yeah,
him
we're having a
anymore.
hard time hearing you guys. It's kind of
Just him.
choppy.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, okay, Dan has been muted.
Yeah, I could hear you perfectly fine.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Deirdre, can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Since
Little
you can
better?
all hear me well, I just want to let you know that the other person promoted to panelist here is Rod Anderson, and I believe he's an adjacent property owner.
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can, sir. How are you?
Okay, good. Yeah, Doreen and I have lived here for 20 years. We're next door neighbors.
Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Rod Anderson, 108 Cedarhurst Street, Islip Terrace, New York.
Thank you, sir.
My wife is Doreen. We've lived here since May of 2000. And the house that Nicole and Matt live in has been a rental for many years until they purchased it. And we're thrilled that, you know, a family has finally moved in and taken ownership of the house. We have no objections, and that's all I really wanted to say, to their application for a variance. They're a growing family, and you know, we're parents of children who are now adults and living their own lives, and you know, we want to see them grow in the community. We'd hate to see them leave. So I have no
Thank you.
problem with the fact that they're going to build a, you know, an extension on their house or a elevation on their house. I just wanted to make a statement in support of them.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for coming out.
Okay.
Great. And Deirdre, just to, I couldn't really hear you. I apologize, but planning's in approval of this application, and there's no objection?
No objections.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application, Mr. Chairman.
Give me a second, Dan.
We have to, Dan, you have to unmute yourself to second.
Second, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
All
guys.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Application number 372-20, Frank and Faith Ferrante. Permission to erect second-story addition, leaving front yard of 24.9 instead of required 25 feet. Second front yard of 11 feet instead of required 15 feet. Side yard of 5 feet instead of required 14 feet. Resulting in floor area ratio of 48.8% instead of permitted 25%. Resulting in new structure on lot having width of 40 feet instead of required 75 feet. An area of 4,000 square feet instead of required 7,500 square feet, and to leave deck having second front yard of 0.5 feet instead of required 15 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of Thayer Place and Oak Neck Road, West Islip, New York. Good evening. Anyone here on 372-20?
I'm here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Charles Kuhn, architect, representing the applicant.
How are you, Mr. Kim?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Go ahead, state your case.
Everyone's good. Oh, here we go.
I see you have the Ferrantes with you also?
Yes, with us is Frank and Hope Ferrante.
Great. How are you guys tonight?
Good, how you doing?
I'm trying to get used to this
It's all right.
zoning board
It's
Zoom.
tough.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Kim, state your case.
Okay, again, Charles Kuhn, architect, PO Box 641, Northport, New York, representing the applicant. So what we have tonight, we have an application in for a second floor addition to an existing house. The house was built in I believe 1965. It did have a zoning board approval back in 65 for its current setbacks. At some point during the history of the house, the deck was added on. That was done prior to the Ferrantes purchasing the house. We basically were asking permission to go over the entire house, which, you know, basically is consistent with all the homes on Thayer Place. I believe all the homes have basically gone up with a full second floor addition. You know, basically to cut to the chase, I know we're asking for 48.8% FAR. We certainly cannot show any precedence for that. It's the only thing we can state is that this, you know, with the 970 square feet we're looking to add to the house, it is consistent with the neighborhood as far as you know, the type of homes. Actually on their block, if they were granted this addition, this would probably be still one of the small homes on the block.
So, Mr. Kuhn, you
property
stated
is
that,
12,000 square feet.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. You stated that the FAR you're requesting is not going to change the nature and character of the neighborhood. Do you have other precedent in the area with an FAR that high?
The only precedent we can cite, I believe, is 31%. And I guess the point I'd make with that is if we were, you know, if we were held to 31%, that would allow us about 250 square feet to add to this house. The Ferrantes, I'll let them talk in a second. Basically, young couple, they're not in a financial position certainly to go out and buy a bigger house or a house with bigger property. They do have a growing family. I believe they're in the process of adopting, or they have adopted another child. You know, this is a house they plan to live in for quite a while. So, you know,
Mr. Kuhn, I'm
yeah.
sorry if I may, Mr. Chairman. The precedent we have is 31%. How could we possibly grant 48? We can't. No, we can't.
Yeah, okay, I understand. I can appreciate that.
So 31% is what our precedent is, and we in the past have granted that up to that extent of 31%. I'm sorry they have a small piece of property, but that doesn't mean we throw out the zoning code.
Oh, certainly, I understand that. You know,
Okay, good.
we're just appealing. You know, we're appealing to the board. Like I said, at the 31%, that would allow us an additional 250 square feet, which, you know, certainly for a second floor addition, you know, really unfortunately doesn't, you know, doesn't help. You know, doesn't give them what they need at this point.
But
so
that's the
again, you
size
know,
of
we
the
get to
property.
appeal to the board.
That's
I'm
the
sorry?
size of the property.
Yeah, it's 4,000 square feet. So right now
We
that the
can't
house,
make the property bigger.
we can't. And like I just said, the Ferrantes, you know, they bought this house a while ago. They had a small family. The family's growing.
I know you said that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to let the Ferrantes speak.
Good evening.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Frank Ferranti. We're at 7 Thayer
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so
If you
we
could repeat that, please.
My name is Frank Ferranti. This is Faith Ferranti. We're at 7 Thayer Place in West Islip.
How are you tonight?
Good, thank you. How about you guys?
Good, thanks.
We live on a dead end with 4 houses. We are looking to just go straight up. We just want to put the bedrooms upstairs. We have 3 young boys, 9, 7, and 5. We're adopting a little girl. Excited. I'm a part of the community. I run a homeless shelter in Bayshore. And again, we just wanted to have some more room in the house. We're just going straight up, not extending the footprint, or I don't know what the terms are. This is all new to me. But I will beg for your help as we are growing and, you know, to stay in the neighborhood. We've been in the neighborhood for 9 years now, and we love it here. And to buy a house of the size we would need, we would have to leave the neighborhood, and I don't want to. I just love it here. I think it's great. So yeah, I don't know what else to say besides begging and pleading.
So you know, Mr. Ferrante, that I'm sure you know, well, or if not, I'll explain to you that we have to deal with the town of Islip, and although the code says 25%, we allow normally up to 30%. In your case, you have 31 and change in the neighborhood. For us to go to 48.8, someone else can come back later on in the future and say, hey, but you let the Ferrantes do 48.8, why can't we? And then what happens is that our zoning code goes out the window, because now you have these oversized homes on lots that don't fit them, and you know, it just becomes not suburbia anymore. So that's the, you know, and our job is to protect the code. That's what we signed on for when we took this job. So 48.8 is a bit extreme and excessive. I hate to use that word, for us to even, without any precedence, to even hang our hat on and say, well, they deserve it because what you're doing is admirable, and we all appreciate that as family people. But there's no argument that we have that we could say, well, forget about the 31, we're going to go 48.8.
The only thing the only thing I guess I could point to is directly across the street from us on Thayer. If you look at that weird L-shaped property, it is really tucked in there on the three sides, with exception for an unusable area, which is the L. I love them. Their name is Jim and Joanne. They're wonderful people. But on three sides, literally, they're right up to the property line. I would have more space than that if you didn't include the unusable area they have. So
that would be something that they would, if they were permitted, that would be something that you could come back to us and say, hey, right across the street, my neighbor has, you know, this FAR or these setbacks, and you'd come back with some proof to us, or your design professional come back with some proof to us and say, this is what they have across the street, and why can't my clients have it? I'm assuming that that's not the case. Possibly it was done without a permit. Possibly it was done prior to any of the code being put into place. I don't know that. I'm just speculating at this point. But that's what would have to be something. So if you'd like some more time to go research your neighbors and see what they have, and then you can come back, or your design professional can come back and say, you know, here's what we have. That may be something that you would want to do, and we would give you that option.
I wouldn't want to get them in trouble either, though, if they didn't.
Yeah, I understand. I totally understand what you're saying, but that's the only, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of hope to say, for what you want to do on your size property, we would need more. We can't just say, you know, they are wonderful people, community members, we're going to give them 48.8%. We would love to, but we can't. The whole code goes out the door. We can't do that. The entire town would be after us, honestly. So that's the.
So I would say, you know, if yes, I would be willing to come back with more information. If the board would. If
you would like, that would be fine. What I want to do, though, is just go over a little bit of. I want to have a little conversation regarding your deck on the front also prior to, because you may want to go back and get some more information on that also. How high is that? I'm going to talk to Mr. Kuhn now, if you don't mind, Mr. Frank, unless you want to answer. You guys tell me. The deck, how high is that deck off the ground?
The deck is just under 4 feet off of average grade.
So it's not grade level at all, is what you're saying?
It's not grade level, no. No, this house is on a sort of an extended crawl space foundation, so it's elevated slightly, yes.
And you're right up against the property line with that deck, correct?
We're right up against, the Thayer Street property line, which, you know, Thayer Street is a dead end. There's no through traffic that comes through here. So as far as a sightline issue, we don't feel this deck poses any sightline issues with the traffic.
Sure. Do you have any precedence for a wood deck of that height being on the property line in the second front yard?
I do not.
Deirdre, do we have any precedent in planning?
No,
We can help. No precedent. Do you have any objection to that deck, planning department?
it is down a dead end street, but it is almost 4 feet tall. So I think that is kind of something that will, it's not like very small, it's not something on grade essentially. So it's something that will be seen, anyone that drives by, even if they are driving down Oak Neck Road as compared to Thayer Place. It just seems a little too close to the property line, especially when it's, I
The
think,
deck has been there about 20 years.
Does planning have any recommendation for what they would like to see with the deck with regards to the southerly property line on the second front yard there, please?
if it could be cut back at all. What's the,
Deirdre, a quick question. Does the deck contribute to the FAR?
I'm not entirely sure, but I can try and find out. I don't think so.
Doesn't
I,
have a-
I may be thinking
doesn't have-
just a fire island, but if you could, you could confirm that, because if they could cut back the deck, if the deck does in fact contribute to the FAR, that may help them down the road with.
It's only on Fire Island that it.
Yeah, I thought so, but you know, it's been a long quarantine.
Yeah, my calculations do not include the deck in the FAR.
Okay. So, Mr. Kuhn, are you requesting an adjournment so you can do some more research with regards to the area and FAR?
We would request an adjournment. That'd be great.
All right, Mary, when's the next adjournment we can give them? It's gonna be sometime in August, and I don't know if we have
Yeah.
August
Well,
all set yet.
if I had my way, I'd have you guys work every Tuesday in August, but I don't think we're ready to do that just yet. So it's.
I'm ready.
We are going to have at least 3 hearings in August. So if we adjourn it the way that the vice chairman did earlier, when he said to be adjourned to a date in August to be determined by the secretary at a later date, that would be good. And then Chuck, you should get me a revised proposal so that I can advertise it at some point in July after you meet with Deirdre.
Okay, very good. I'll do that.
Okay, so does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we reserve,
No,
that we grant
adjourn.
an adjournment to a date. Have we selected a date?
No, in August.
In August.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Application adjourned. Have a great night, guys.
Oh, you too. Thanks a lot. Bye now.
Application number 373-20, Joseph and Christine Rosati, permission to leave driveway on property line instead of required 4 feet and having front yard occupancy of 64.28% instead of permitted 35%. To leave 2 sheds not having required 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. To leave gravel type area and then to install driveway on side property line instead of required 4 feet each. To leave pool patio and gravel area having rear yard occupancy of 78.62%. 30.33% patio, 48.29% gravel, instead of permitted 30%. Residence A District, west side of Sequams Lane East, 664.92 feet north of Eaton Lane, West Islip, New York. Good evening. Do we have anyone?
Can you hear me?
We can, sir. How are you?
All right, how are you?
Good. Name
I
and
said, I
address for
hope
the record,
everybody
please.
is well in this crazy time we're going through.
Everyone is well here. How about yourself?
We're okay, we're hanging in there.
Great. Good to hear. Name and address for the record, please.
Joe Rosati, 104 Sequams Lane East, West Islip.
Great. So you would like to state your case, or would you like us to go through the application?
I'll state my case first. So what I have down here in the front yard is just a rough outline. What I'm asking permission for is to have a circular driveway and a small driveway on the side so I could put my boat back there in the winter and the trailer in the summer months. So the pea gravel in the back, that's been there for 12 years. I thought I had a C of O and that was all taken care of at the time, and it is drainable. The deal is with this property and even my neighbor's properties, just when it rains, grass is a very big issue here. It's soft. It's almost like a marshland. So that's why I had put pea gravel in. And that's why I raised my grade in the front of the house. Also because my garage is elevated when the house was lifted.
Mr. Rosati, you were granted a rear yard occupancy by a zoning board application in 2010 of 34.6%. You're now looking for a rear yard occupancy of 78.62% because you have all the gravel in there, correct?
Yeah, the gravel was always there, so I'm not sure why that's an issue now, but.
Well, I was on a board in 2010, but I'd have to think that the rear doc, you were granted 34.6 instead of permitted 25. And 78, I don't believe they would have seen the gravel or known about the gravel at that point because 48.29% is gravel and 30.33 is not gravel, it's patio.
The gravel is drainable, if that makes a difference. And when the property, the ultimate goal here is to put, what I understand, I'm allowed to put 18-inch retaining walls around the entire property. And there would be beds around the property and around the in-ground pool area. In the front where it says mulch, that's a large bed. That's a half circle. Right now, it's not a half circle because it's a rough outline. And there's also beds where it says 17'2". That's all beds where there will be small trees, plants, flowers, bushes, etc.
But the application states permission to leave driveway. Does that mean that the driveway is not in yet, or it's already installed and you're asking for relief?
The driveway is RCA. What I did the last 2 years, I built it up so it would settle for when we get the money to do the original the driveway, the finished product.
I'm going to defer to Deirdre from planning. We normally as a board see front yard occupancy up to 40%. When the code says 35, and we see rear yard also 40% when the code says 30. So I'm going to refer to Deirdre from planning to see if we have any precedent in the area for the relief you're requesting with regards to the front yard and the rear yard occupancy. Deirdre, you there?
Yeah, there's no front yard occupancy precedent. The only one, there is a rear yard occupancy precedent, but that was granted at 48.7% on the basis that it will be pavers. But otherwise, there's no precedent.
Okay.
Also, if I could say something, this, I'm sorry, can you see me?
We got you, yep, we got you.
Tab is clicking in. I'm sorry, we're on a cell phone. That's the only way I could connect to you guys. On the 4 feet where I'm asking permission, there's a lot of people just on this block alone that their driveways touch, and the only thing separating them is Belgian block.
I don't think the side yard driveway, the property line driveway, is that much of an issue. To me, anyway, personally, we have to vote on the rest of the board. But as you heard us before, if you were listening in, we have a code to uphold, and if we give you 64% front yard occupancy and rear yard of 70-something%, then how do we tell the next person no? You got to be 40%. We can't do that. So we have to look at the entire town. And I understand your wants and your perceived needs, and I get that as a homeowner. But we as a board have to uphold the code, and that's what we're stuck with.
I understand. But in the beginning, I had told you this is a rough outline. This big bed in the front that says mulch, this can be made wider, so it's not going to be concrete or gravel for now.
Well, so I'm going to give you a little option here if you'd like.
Sure.
Possibly, would you like an adjournment? You can meet with planning and find out where you can move or cut or extend, extend so you can come back with a more palatable application, because right now the numbers that you have, and I'm just speaking for myself as chairman, we still have to take a vote on it. They're excessive. I've never seen, and I've been on the board, this is my 7th year on the board. I've never seen us grant something this excessive for front yard or rear yard. So,
Could
would
I,
you like an
could I
adjournment
answer
that you
this? As far as the pea gravel that's in the back, what are you looking to be there? Because pea gravel is drainable, so what are you looking to be in place of the pea gravel?
So grass. I don't write they want to look, the code, I believe, interpret the code as suburbia, right? They would like to see some grass, not pea
The
grass.
problem is with the grass, it's a mud puddle just when it rains. Never mind when the street floods and the canal comes over the bulkhead. And that's how my neighbors' houses are. They really need to raise their grade. You know, my 2 neighbors on their side, on each side of me. It's a swamp.
Maybe that'd be a good, Mr. Chairman, maybe that would be a good issue for the gentleman to take up with planning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe you would like an adjournment, sir, and you can sit with planning and discuss options that you may have. Unfortunately, I'm looking at the aerial, and I see you're the only home with pea gravel in the backyard and pavers. Everyone else has grass.
Yeah, if you were to see their properties just alone when it rains, I mean, it literally looks like marshland. It's half water.
Mr. Rosati, why don't you take the opportunity to meet with planning and see where you can find a middle ground, or where maybe you can convince them to get on board with your application, and that would be very persuasive to this board.
If you can convince them.
If you can convince them.
Okay, I would like the opportunity to present this to them.
Okay, and let's just go over a few other things before you have that opportunity. We're also seeing you got 2 sheds that are not 20 feet behind the front line of dwelling. How long have those sheds been there?
I've been here 12 years, and I put them there 12 years ago. Just so you know, they're not framed wood sheds. They're just Rubbermaid sheds. One faces the canal, one faces the street. So it cosmetically looks nice. And, you know, the rear one is used for the summer stuff when we put it away in the winter. And the front one is really used for some storage and bicycles.
So Mary, if you can hear me, Mary or Deirdre, when was the date of the code change from 10 feet behind the front line of dwelling to 20?
I think we usually come in at 2012, right, Deirdre?
2012, all right. So you'd have to prove, sir, that somewhere around 2012, they were built prior to that in order to keep them. If not, the town code was changed by the town board a few years back that sheds have to be 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling.
Is that something I will also take up with planning?
Yes, sir, yes. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to get this all jotted down, so when you go with planning, you have a little more of a successful meeting and it can move it along.
Okay, so 2012 for sheds?
Yep, for the 20 foot behind the front line, yep, and the rear yard and front yard occupancy.
Okay, so the rear yard, I guess I'll design it in more of a perfect manner and then come back to you, and I'm sure the percentage that you're asking, that I'm asking, will be a lot lower.
I hope so, sir, and I hope that you can speak with planning and they can give you some information on how you could do this, and you can come back with a more palatable application for all of us.
Okay,
right.
Do I get another date now, or do I deal with planning and then they'll give me another date?
I would deal with planning, and then we're out into August right now because of what's going on here, so we don't have dates set in August yet. Who knows? We may be back in person. Yay! But we don't know. So what we'll do is we'll see if anyone wishes to be heard. We'll take a vote, and we'll give you an adjournment date for sometime in August. But I don't know planning schedule, so you'd have to contact them and see when you can meet with them.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Does anyone wish to be? I'm sorry.
Yeah, could you just ask if anybody wishes to be heard? Because I just noticed another name in the panel, and
Yep, I'm asking right now.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone wish to be heard in this application?
let's see. Hold on. Oh, maybe they left.
They left us? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the application to a date to be determined in August, hopefully.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application adjourned, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody. Be safe.
You too, look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Application number 374-20, Marcelina De La Rosa. Permission to leave one-story addition, 13.5 by 26.5, having a side yard of 0.4 feet instead of required 14 feet. Residence A District, west side of Winston Drive, 1,491.63 feet north of Broadway, Brentwood, New York. Good evening.
Sorry, let me move him to panelist. Luis Dominguez.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing well. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Luis Dominguez at 38 Sage Street in Central Islip. And the reason I'm here today is to ask for permission to leave an enclosed patio 13.5 by 26.5, having side yard of 0.4 feet instead of the 14 required.
Mr. Dominguez, are you here on behalf of Mr. De La Rosa? Or Mrs. De La Rosa?
I'm here on behalf of Mr. De La Rosa, correct. I'm the expediter.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to quote that that enclosed patio is showing on a survey since 1977 and brought great protection when the Sandy storm hit. And since that time, Mr. De La Rosa didn't have any issue with the neighbor. The neighbor expressed that she doesn't have any concern. And I know it's not up to code, but we are asking the chairman and the board to give us permission to leave it, or what should we do in order to keep it?
Mr. Dominguez, do you have any precedent in the area for side yard relief of that magnitude? You're looking for almost 100%. It's going to be probably difficult to find.
Yes, I didn't see any.
Okay. Deirdre from planning, do we have any precedent for side yard of 0.4 instead of 14?
No precedent.
No precedent at all.
Nope.
So, sir, as you probably heard in the this past few hours that we've been on, if you've been listening, we have a code to uphold, and 0.4 instead of required 14 on side yard is hard to say yes to you for, or your applicant for, and not to anyone else. So we would need something more to base an argument on, other than that it's been there since 1970. Do you have anything that you can base your argument on?
Mr. De La Rosa is willing, he knows that we are too close to the property line, and he's willing to cut it. Can we cut it, a couple feet, 3-4 feet?
The code says 14. You'd have to cut it much more than 3 or 4 feet if we chose to give you any relief at all, your client any relief at all. Do we have any relief, Deirdre, from side property lines in the area less than 14 feet? Did you hear me, Deirdre, or no?
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. No, I don't believe so. I don't think there's, the only thing I found was a patio with a side yard of 0.2, but that was a patio on grade, not an enclosed. Sorry, I forgot what he mentioned it was, but the 1-story addition.
Yeah. So unfortunately, sir, we have nothing to even give you any relief from the 14-foot side yard code on.
Mr. Chairman, can we cut it down and allow this family to have that enclosed patio? Like I told you before, Mr. De La Rosa is willing to, to cut it down because he understands that he's too close to the neighbors, even though the neighbor doesn't have any concern.
I understand that. So if you're proposing to cut it back, what is your client proposing to cut it back to?
What about, I propose between 3 and 4. Is that okay?
So you're looking for either a 10 or you're looking for a 3 or a 4 foot side yard instead of required 14?
10 should be 10 should be good.
Well, we'd have to discuss this as a board. Would the board want to reserve this and discuss this as a board, or?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a compliant neighborhood. I see no reason why to disturb the otherwise compliant neighborhood at this juncture and create a precedent. That's just excessive. Not egregious, excessive.
Mr.
So I
Sullivan,
would be
Mr.
in favor of
Nicolia?
just denying it.
Mr. DeColia, Mr. Sullivan?
I agree with Mr.
I
Wentz.
support Mr. Wexler's position.
Thank you.
So, sir, we have the board here stating that it's a compliant neighborhood, as you heard. It'd be hard pressed to approve any relief on it when the neighbor's compliant.
Can we talk to the compliant neighbor and try to, to come up to some solution to an agreement?
It's not, I hate to be this direct with you, but it's not up to the neighbor. It's up to our code, and our code has a 14-foot side yard.
I understand.
That's what code states. So and unless you have some good argument to say we're going to keep this less than 14 feet, we're hard pressed to approve that in a compliant neighborhood.
I propose to the board and to Mr. Chairman to cut it in half. Bring it a half. It's gonna be enough space between my client and the neighbor line.
So,
7 feet should 7 feet. If they can keep 7 feet, that should be great for this family.
You would have to have some more to put up other than what you're proposing, sir. We have nothing else in the neighborhood that supports that. Nothing else.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
Motion to deny the application.
Well, let's see if anyone wishes to be heard first on this application. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicolia, I'll take a motion.
Motion to deny the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, sir, the application is denied.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Okay, you too.
Mr. Chairman, can I leave? I think we're finished.
I think we have a few to read in renewal, public session renewals, correct, Mary?
I was muted. We have 8 accessory apartments to renew. 6, 7, 8. So
We also have the other one that's,
we do, and we have one reserved decision that we promised, a very quick decision. So I'm going to ask the board to take a vote on that one also.
All right, just so you know, it's 85 degrees in my basement right now.
Turn that awful light
So,
off. Maybe that's making you hot.
Yeah, then there's no light at all.
Okay, so I apologize. It's 7 applications for renewal accessory apartments. They're numbered 37520 through 38120.
I'll be back.
We haven't received any objections, and they're up for renewal for another 3 years. If we could just have one motion and 1 second on all 7, that would be good.
make a motion to approve the 7 public session renewal applications.
Second?
Do
I
we have
can't
a-
second, fellas.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank
All
you.
in favor? Aye.
Great.
I'll say
Okay.
aye.
And
No
then
one
the
else
last,
wants to say aye?
the last item was heard on May 26, our second Zoom hearing. This was the one where the neighbor was trying desperately to call in and I wasn't able to get him in. It was a bit confusing. I was talking to him on my desk phone. But I met with him a couple of times and explained the application a little better. And as it turned out, his only concern was the hot tub. which had a side yard of 4.2 and a rear yard of 8.7 instead of 14 feet each. And I think the board had expressed concern about the hot tub at the hearing. So, and the other thing was the board also, Deirdre presented precedent to us for 31.8% in the area, and that was the highest. They were looking for a 33.74% FAR, and I think the board was pretty clear with them at the hearing that we weren't going to go above 31.8. So the application, I believe, as the board would be thinking of voting on it, would be to deny the FAR as submitted, to deny the hot tub, to grant the FAR not to exceed 31.8%, and to grant the remainder of the application. Does that sound all right to everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So we just need a motion and a second.
Make a
Motion.
The
I'll second.
application as amended.
Grant as amended. Chris?
All in favor?
Julia,
Second.
Aye.
Aye. Application granted as amended.
Thank you, everyone. You're free to go.
I love you all. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Mary.
Tom.
Take it
Thanks,
easy,
Mary.
Bill.
Ciao.
Take-
Great
Hey,
Take care,
John,
guys.